The Fulton DeKalb Hospital Authority presents the 4th Annual Health Summit with a theme entitled Violence, America's Challenge. This is a segment from the Town Hall discussion hosted and moderated by Roland Martin. Our panelists are Chairman John Eves, Essence Magazine founder Susan Taylor, Judge Penny Brown Reynolds, Sheriff Ted Jackson, Commissioner Larry Johnson, and Judge Willie Lovett.
I think what often happens is when we talk about violence in communities, we immediately go to a law enforcement perspective. We immediately go to it's the parents. We start going to, and we sort of go into our corners when violence in communities really, there are so many factors that go into it, and you dealt with it. Mental health, education, self-esteem, economics, you can go on and on and on. And so if we are starting this process to say, how do we begin to address it and change it, what for each one of you, what is your particular starting point? Because folks will have different lanes that they're operating in. What will be, just for you, a starting point to begin to reverse this trend, reverse this tide? Again, anybody can jump in. And Sherry, I'm going to go to you for a question real soon.
I mean, for me, when I see kids and families come into my courtroom, it appears, once you figure out what's really going on, it appears that there's layers and layers and layers of trauma in that family's existence. In the home, in the community, the fact that you're ducking whenever you hear gunshots and thinking that that's normal behavior. I mean, those things and those traumas within that family appear to me to be something, one, that we can address, and two, that if we deal with it, we won't have a kid who's hypervigilant, who's going to react with violence when he's challenged. In my opinion, dealing with the trauma that's existing in our communities is the first step.
Sheriff?
Just to back up a little bit, we talk about violence, but the end result is what we have in our jail. Any given day, we have 2,500 inmates, 88% African American male, 1/3 17 to 24 years old, 92% violent offenders. That's the end result of violence in the community. So what we try to do in the Sheriff's Office is to develop programs to turn the tide of people rotating through the jail.
Like what?
For example, outside the jail, we have the Youth Intervention Program. If any of you seen Beyond Scared Straight, we've been featured for the last 5 seasons. HYPE, Helping Youth Prosper and Evolve. Derek Bozeman's been involved. And we started 10 years old trying to change behavior. But we find that when we do these programs that there's something missing in the household called communication. In our last HYPE program, the second Saturday in October, we do it every year, second Saturday in October every year at Atlanta Metro. You can talk with us later if you have a 6th or 12th grader that you want to get into the program. But Michael Thurman asked a question. We had about 700 attendees, parents and students, and he asked a question to a young, I think he was a 10-year-old. What is it you don't like about your parent? And he says, she yells at me all the time. Then he picked a parent, not this kid's parent, and said, why do you yell? And he said, because you don't listen. So the whole point was communication. And Michael Thurman, you all know him, dealt with communication. And we find that there's little communication in our programs. We require parents and students to come together, and we have them talk.
Is this an internal program of your jail, or is it one that is external, that's not dealing with folks who are already in your system?
Well, this is external, because we have internal programs as well. But we notice that behavior is an issue. Young people come into our program fighting us, and we got guns on them. They're so misbehaved at home, they take that with them. And so what we do is change that behavior in a given day through through the program. But what we find is these youngsters will say, my parents don't pat me on the back. My parents don't talk to me. They don't care about me. And so it's communicating. And parents do play a role.
But like he just said, though, you have layers and layers, because those parents likely had parents who didn't pat them on the back and also didn't praise them, and so the cycle continues. Go right ahead.
So I want to jump in. The sheriff really laid out a lot of statistics. One of the statistics that he didn't mention was the high number of folks in our criminal justice system, our jail specifically, who are high school dropouts. So I think he had a great question. Where do you jump in? I think that the prevention area is where the resources should be directed to stop this school to prison pipeline. Working in partnership with the school system to get these young men, particularly, to stay in school and to not drop out and get into criminal activity. One of the things that I'm beginning to do as the chairman of Fulton County is to begin to talk about something called criminal reinvestment. So instead of putting dollars into the incarceration, which is about $75 a day, $25,000 a year, redirecting those dollars into diversion, preventive programs, supporting the school systems, because I think that's the best utilization of public dollars to minimize the number of folks who are going into the criminal justice system. So again, your question is a great question in terms of this cycle that's going on. Where do you jump in? And I think the dollars should be shifted into the area of prevention, specifically working with school systems.
Roland, let me talk about dollars, because there's big dollars in violence. That's why we don't get rid of it. We want to be honest about this. This is big money. It's big money is to keep people disenfranchised and marginalized. It has always been. And so we throw money and pretend we're throwing it. We have so much money that we throw, and we're believing that money can't solve it. When the gun manufacturers, there's big money. There's big money in Hollywood to keep shows on the air that perpetuate violence. There's big money in the whole issue of violence. And where money should be redirected to mental health. We don't have a mental health person up here.
No.
But we need mental health.
We got one. I'm about to go to her in a second.
We're going to deal with that.
I got this, Judge.
So I know you got it. I'm about to take the mic, though, because I want to be on the real with it.
It's my TV show.
Right, there you go. It's just a big money situation, and you know that on many different levels. Now, we look at, and we can say that the haves and the have-nots. For me, it's now about economic empowerment. We have been protesting. We've had our civil rights movement. We're still in it now. But the liberation of our people from a financial standpoint, we need to take control of that. We have corporations today that don't feel like, because we have President Barack Obama in the White House, that they need to reinvest anything into communities that need it the most. We have situations where we have politicians running on programs that take away the very things that we need in order to do what we need to do in the community. And so it's one of these situations where they're using the limited resources in order to control the fact that they know that there is big money in violence. And so if we can get a hold of that on that level. Number two, if we can, I'm sick of job programs. People need a job. They don't need another job program. Right. And we're just sick of it. They need a job. And so what we need to do is stop with the demagogue. I'm so sick of it. I have been on so many panels. I really would like to say, let's sit down with an action plan. Let's sit down and see, what do you have to do when you come out of prison? You have a felony on your record. That means that it's likely that you will not be able to go walk in anywhere, you know that, Judge, and get a job. Now what they're doing is they run background checks on you to check your credit before you can get a job. Now, they didn't do that when I was coming up. Now they do a background check to see if you've ever been arrested. What are the statistics of our young black men and women being arrested? So what we need to do, I believe, is deal with these problems that are actually preventing our people from moving out of poverty, which is critical, to the middle class, because it is in poverty that all the money is being made on the backs of marginalized people.
I want to go to the... I'm going to go to... I need microphone, please, for Sherry. I need you to answer this, because if we're talking about dealing with violence, you have to confront the reality of the reality of Sherry Graves Grady,
Yes.
ACT team? All right, there you go. We have to confront mental health. And so speak to, from that perspective, what needs to be done, the role that mental health plays when it comes to violence.
Well, you know, this whole discussion today is just so important for us to be having. And I'm a licensed clinical social worker on the Grady Act team, so we get out into the community. We're in the trenches. We're dealing with the mental health patients. Also, most of our patients are co-occurring, so they have the mental health and the substance abuse. And every day I have to get out there and see people in the streets. They don't have the services that they need. We can't give them the services that they need. And we have to do the best that we can with what we have, but it's not enough. We need the support to be able to provide the services for these people, to get them, number one, off the streets if they're homeless, to get them into the proper the best level of care for them to get the help that they need. And it makes it very difficult when the services are not there and they're not available for them.
The Fulton DeKalb Hospital Authority thanks you for watching this highlight presentation. We hope you've enjoyed this content. Please share the message and visit our website for new episodes of this series and others.